In this video, I want to talk about two very unique types of unemployment, voluntary and involuntary unemployment. From the names, you can figure out what they are, but let's take a closer look at these types of unemployment and how they impact the economy and also how they occur. So the first one is voluntary unemployment occurs through individual choices, right? Through individual choices, right? So again, individuals are making a choice to be unemployed. And usually when you make that choice, you're not factored into the unemployment rate because you're not looking for work. You have other priorities. Maybe you want to go to school, you want to have additional training, you want to just take time off, travel, and so forth. So those individuals are not factored into the unemployment rate. All right, so it says here again, let's take this again. Voluntary unemployment occurs through individual choice, whereas in voluntary unemployment exists due to the social economic environment, including the market structure, right? So market structure has a lot to do with it. Are they hiring? What's going on in the market environment? Government intervention could also be a reason for involuntary unemployment. Government steps in with regulations, and regulations really tighten the screw on some of this, some corporations, and they start laying off workers, etc. And the level of aggregate demand, right? The level of aggregate demand in the economy in which individuals operate. It's very important for us to understand the distinction. The first one is through individual choices, right? So individual decides that they don't want to work for a certain period of time, they want to do other things, and those individuals are not part of the unemployment rate. Only those who are seeking and willing to work but not finding work part of the unemployment calculation. Okay, so whereas involuntary unemployment exists due to the social economic environment, and that environment includes the market structure, right? The market structure, again, what the market looks like, what's going on in the market, what's going on in the economy, are there a lot of jobs? Is it a high period where people are employed, for example, towards the Christmas period where there are so many economic activities, or is it a low period, right? Government intervention and the level of aggregate demand in which the individual operates. Now it says here in this term, much or most of frictional unemployment is voluntary, right? Again, frictional unemployment is voluntary. We talked about frictional unemployment in a different video. Is voluntary because the individual, has a transition period between two jobs. Now the individual could decide to work, have no break, and stop one job on one day, and the next day, begin another job. But they decide to take maybe 2 weeks off, 3 weeks in between, and so forth. So that's voluntary. Since it reflects individual such behavior. All right, so but voluntary unemployment includes workers who reject low wages. There's a job for them, but they just don't want that job because, again, they're not interested in the salary, the income. They're offering the wages too low for them. Whereas involuntary unemployment includes workers fired due to economic crisis, right? Pandemic, for example, lack of contract, for example, loss of, confidence in the market of a company's product that leads to layoffs and so forth, industrial decline, company bankruptcy, or organizational restructuring, right? So restructuring could also be a reason for involuntary unemployment because when organizations restructure, sometimes they declare some positions redundant. So it is very important for us to understand the distinction between the two types of unemployment. One is voluntary, individual choice. The other one, individual really has nothing to do with it. Individual is willing to work, but for some reason, and again, mostly due to social economic environment, which we have already explained, they cannot find work and they're out there looking for work. They are part of the unemployment rate. Now, again, those who are voluntarily unemployed are not part of the unemployment rate. We don't calculate them in the unemployment rate because they're not interested in working. They are out there, they're doing other things. Only those interested and willing to work but can't find work are part of the unemployment calculation. All right, so voluntary unemployment is individual choice. Involuntary unemployment is due to socio-economic environment, and these are some of the factors that make up that socio-economic environment, the market structure, government intervention, the level of aggregate demand in which individuals operate, and other factors not mentioned here. Now, in these terms, once again, we want to be sure that this is very clear. Most of frictional unemployment is voluntary, right? Again, we explained that already, and again, because individual, wants that break between jobs and so forth. And voluntary unemployment then includes workers who reject low pay. And this is a very important point for us to understand. So there's work for you, but you're not interested because the pay is not good, right? You are voluntarily unemployed. You are voluntarily unemployed because there's work for you and you are not interested. And so involuntary unemployment then includes workers who are fired due to economic crisis, industrial decline, company bankruptcy, organizational restructuring, and many other factors that impact companies in the economy, right? Maybe high taxes. Now, companies have to pay high taxes, and they have to lay off workers to make, meet that, responsibility, or they've been charged with misconduct, and they have to pay, their clients huge sums of money. They have to lay off some workers so that they can meet that court judgment or whatever the case may be.